so I can't believe that I'm actually saying this. Smile is not a steaming pile of dog shit. I would even say it's good. It's not A24 good. Let me put that baby to bed right now. But it's like a A24 film from the Almost collection. Like a film that just didn't make the A24 Little League team. They had all the potential but just didn't make the cut. It's competently made, but it doesn't seem to reach that high plateau that it seems like it's striving for. When I first saw the trailer, I thought it was going to be hot garbage. It reminded me of the worst Blumhouse movies like Truth or Dare, obviously with the smile gimmick. It also seemed like It Follows, and that's some fucking heavy fucking shoes to fill. I instantly wrote it off as some bullshit. Then I started to slowly get more curious as time went on, and I said fuck it. It's the Halloween season, and at worst it will be a shitty movie that's fun to roast. But I was actually surprised while watching this. Again, it's not the best horror movie of the year or anything. But I would say it's an effective little horror movie. The premise is that there is a woman portrayed by Cersei Bacon, who witnessed a tragic event, who is being haunted by a supernatural entity who smiles. Yeah, not really a narrative masterpiece. But, what they do with the premise is pretty creative and spots. I mentioned It Follows earlier for a reason. Because that's the biggest comparison that I could make to this film in my opinion. They have very similar plots, except one has a lot less ST demons. I do like how they did try to incorporate aspects of trauma and letting go here. I love straightforward Slayer and gore movies to death, but I do love this age of elevated horror. I tend to find myself more drawn to horror movies with a little bit more to say. With themes that are just a tad bit more relatable. And trauma is definitely something that everyone can relate to. And it can be pretty fucking terrifying. The cast was pretty good all around for the most part. Bacon was very believable as the main character. I can tell that she really sank her teeth into this role. She was trying to get a fucking Oscar or at least not make this a generic horror leading lady performance. The supporting cast featuring Jesse T. Usher, Kyle Gallner and Kal Penn are fine. Usher's Jet Jackson looking ass and Penn don't have that much to do, but what time they do have is serviceable. I'm glad that Gallner is getting more work. I thought after the Nightmare on Elm Street remake he was fucking done. The cinematography was what you would expect for a modern horror movie. It's going to look good no matter what, but what grabs me is what are you going to do stylistically. There are a few cool shots that you can tell the director took out of Ari Aster's camera playbook. There are several camera shots that start static and then just go upside down like the cameraman was a fucking bat or something. Aster has a few shots like this, and they would have been more effective if used more sparingly. If one technique is used too often in a film, it kinda starts to become really noticeable. Good cinematography is the sort of thing makes me hard. Metaphorically. If I had to say what was the most effective part of the movie, I would say it was the music. It was creepy when it needed to be and actually pretty minimalist. Again, I don't want to compare it to It Follows, but they were again super similar. I would say that It Follows was slightly more unsettling. There isn't a lot of gore, but what little bit there is was tight. It was mostly practical until they really needed to do something crazy. But I would say that there isn't a lot of carnage, because this is more of a psychological film. Another thing is, this isn't particularly scary. There are a few airy parts here and there. But nothing that would stay with me. Burned into my brain forever. But there aren't many movies that are scary anymore. It would have been cool to see some of the scares in the movie as well, instead of being spoiled in the trailer. I would also say that I would have liked this movie better if it was maybe 10 or 15 minutes shorter. The pacing wasn't the worst, but there were times when the film started to drag a bit towards the end. I found myself looking at my phone quite often to see how much time was left. And honestly, speaking of the ending, it's fucking goofy. It was easily the most predictable part for me. Besides a cool little Nightmare on Elm Street-esque moment, I found that the end was pretty lackluster. It reminded me of the ending to another horror movie, Drag Me to Hell. But that ending was significantly better. This movie surprised me. I remember a time when the only horror movies we got were shitty-ass leftovers from January or Saw movies. I see Paramount is trying to give A24 a run for its money with this one. Again, it's not as good as one of them. But it's pretty solid. If had to give it a ranking, I would probably give it a 3 out of 5. But don't take my word for it. See it yourself. Later.